Good morning. Welcome to Coffee and Conversations. My name is Jason Goodson. I'm here with
Johnny Taylor.
Okay, and we got some boys from, men from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. It's two specifically from Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and one's up north in Tupelo, but the boys down in Hattiesburg, Stu Shoemake. Hello, Stu, you there? Andy Baker.
Hello.
And then John Cordova's coming to us from the 60s room at Larry's house in Tupelo.
Sounds like a nightclub.
Do you hear it in the background?
Yeah, baby.
We are glad that you have decided to download and listen today. We have a pretty random podcast coming to you. However, the randomness you'll just have to accept and listen to because I think there will be some good things come out of it. I want to mention real fast that we've created a fan page on Facebook. You can go to your Facebook page or go to our website. Is it on the website yet?
No, I hadn't put it on the website yet, but
I'm not sure if I'm a fan yet. I need to
yeah,
become a
you
fan.
are.
You are.
All of us are
Okay,
right
good.
now. There's
All
only
right.
9 fans right now, and that's
Oh,
we account for 4.
there's like
of them.
900 fans.
5 of them.
Well, this would be a good opportunity for you guys to leave a comment or question or have some discussion on the podcast and the stuff that we've talked about in the past. So go there, and we will send. We'll post another like an overall fan page,
Yeah,
and everybody can join. Then
yeah. We could do an email time right now, but we don't have any emails, so
that's right. We don't do it.
no.
Yeah. Anyways, here we go. Facebook moment up front. All right. The other day, I'm referencing my home page, okay? I'm going on, I'm looking at the home page, and over in the corner to the right, they always have a reconnect spot with somebody. Do you see that, guys? Do you ever have
No.
that when you're looking at it?
Yes.
Reconnect
Yes.
with so-and-so. Gives a... Well, on mine, I get a reconnect with Lamont Buckfield. And let me tell you something. Lamont is a dead deer hung on the wall at Lake Forest Ranch above the boys' bathroom. How do you have a reconnection with a dead deer? Lamont Buckfield. Do you remember John Cordova?
Yes, I do.
John tried to do the voice for Lamont one day, and it sounded like a strangled
like an
old woman.
An old, that's right. I forgot. I was scaring all the junior campers, man. They were all crying.
They were all like moving from the back of the dining hall to the front because they thought it was real.
I didn't want. First of all right, this is what happened. I didn't want to do Lamont Buckfield, and Rich kept on telling me, you need to try Lamont. You need to do Lamont. We haven't had Lamont in a while. I'm like, Rich, I don't do Lamont. That's not my calling.
Well,
Yeah.
it definitely wasn't your calling, but I will tell you, it made me laugh. I just thought about that when I was supposed to reconnect with Lamont. So I tried to reconnect with the dead, but it just didn't happen. Speaking of
That was
connecting
fun.
with the dead, we had a discussion last week, guys, about being started our discussion from being changed from the inside out, and
What a good transition. That was good, Jason.
Oh, thank you very much.
Practice that one.
Yeah, I've been working on it for weeks. We had a discussion of it. JT during the podcast mentioned about placing a dead body out in front of the church.
Or
anything
anything
you
you want
want.
to draw people into, like your restaurant would be a real good one.
Like if you're going, let's say you want to sell a product, guys, and Andy, let's point you out just for a second. And, Now, all right, okay, let's think about this. John, you put a dead body outside of Starbucks.
Mhm.
Andy, you're going to put a dead body outside of your home, okay? And then Stu, you're going to put one outside of your church building, okay? And then we're going to put one outside of the coffee shop here locally in Mineola, Texas. Now, do you think that's going to draw people to the place?
At least mine's going to smell like coffee.
No, it'll probably override the coffee smell pretty soon.
Yeah.
Don't take it long. I've
Does
never
it-
been around a dead body decaying, but they say that is the worst smell in the world.
I'll just give an example. When I was working with hospice, JT was around during this time.
Oh my goodness.
Cordova may have been around. He wasn't around during that time, was
He
he?
came later that week.
Yeah, it was later on. Well, anyways, I was working with hospice, and if you've ever worked with hospice at all, you know that hospice is a very good. It has good. How do you describe it? It's a good way for people to die. Basically,
Hospice is to comfort people.
it's to comfort people
when they
in
know
their
they're
death.
dying, and
Right.
It's pain management. It's not curative. It's not. Anyways, they do everything to help you in the last days of your life, to comfort you and do all. Well, we get a call to a house, and a gentleman had just signed on, and we were going out to visit. We show up at this place to visit, and right as I show up, he had just passed away like 2 or 3 minutes before I got in there. Now, walk into the home, and it's chaos, utter chaos inside the house. You're dealing with those things. And one of the things that I remember about that is that on the inside, man, I didn't know what to do. I felt like I was shut down almost because I wasn't sure how to respond. But ended up, at the end of the day, after the sheriff and all them left, and before the coroners got there to pick him up, me and the nurse that was on duty had to help clean the body up at the very, and make it presentable for people. And it was strange. I will tell you that right now. And and having to handle the body and do all the stuff that you do with it, it was a mess, and you had to clean up and make him look presentable and stuff like that. But out of all the stuff that we did, we put his clothes on him. He looked like the same guy, but he was dead. We put all kind of clothes on him. We, made the outside look real good, but on the inside, his life was gone from the earth, from the shell. And so all that to say is that we try to attract people by presenting death up front.
our flesh goes out there to present.
Right.
We go out there with the flesh, which is dead,
Mm-hmm.
and say, "Oh, taste and see that God is good."
Right. This doesn't produce life at all.
No.
They don't taste very good either.
No, it doesn't taste very good.
Well, I mean, nobody can get close enough to taste. They're not trying to taste you. They can't even get close enough to taste God.
So, if you had that out in front of your home, and just to put that out there, what responses would you get, you think, guys?
I think it would attract some attention, no doubt. But I don't know if it would be a positive thing.
No, it wouldn't be positive, especially if it was outside of your house, right?
I mean, somebody call the police, I would imagine.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't point. It probably wouldn't point to what you were trying to promote.
No.
Yeah,
Definitely.
you know that crazy guy on the street corner in New Orleans who is painted up bronze or gold to act like a
I
statue.
love that guy.
And you walk by him and you look at him, but you don't want to get close. But you can't help but stare because you know he's alive, but he's standing so still. That's kind of what comes to mind is people would drive by my church,
Right.
and they couldn't help but look at this dead body laying out in the lawn, but they wouldn't dare want to stop and get close to it.
No.
However, though, if
Well, I've talked to him before, and it's funny to talk to him because he doesn't respond back to you.
I can only imagine. That's the song, by the way. So
No comment.
no comment. Yeah. So in thinking about this, what is the biggest part? Like, if we were to say, hey, there's a student or there's a young man or a young woman who is has come to the knowledge of Christ as Savior, what do we talk to them about? What's the first thing that comes out of our mouth? What do we say, and where do we point to them? Because here's what I always heard growing up from me was okay, you got to get these externals straightened up first, and then God will be able to deal with what's on the inside once the externals are taken care of. It's almost as if I had to change my whole image outside before the inside was ever dealt with.
Right.
That's what was always taught to me.
Yeah, it was taught to me if you don't, if you don't have all these things in order, then God's basically got his back turned on you because he can't look upon all that junk you have.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I don't know. I feel like Scripture tells us completely opposite of what we've always been taught. And I'm not sure where we missed the teaching on that, or where we're going wrong, if we're just teaching from feeling or teaching from what we've always heard. But I've just always known that, hey, from the inside is where God begins to change. We're spiritually, our spirits have been united with Christ. If we've been crucified, Paul says, if we've been crucified with Christ, and then that means that we've died, and our spirits have been united with Christ. Not united in, hey, there's part of me, part of Christ. It becomes one.
One thing I like to point out, some of the words I use are, you are a new creation.
Right.
You have died to the old self, and I preach that all the time because, of course it is biblical, but then you somehow have to go and explain it to somebody, and if somebody doesn't know that, it's kind of difficult sometimes to explain it. But I don't know.
Right.
It's kind of what I do. So.
Yeah. I think one of the scariest things is what we say is God's attitude toward us when we're messed up. Right. And a lot of people would say, well, he's more merciful in the New Testament, but I was just thinking about, let's look at his attitude toward Adam and Eve and how he dealt with that. Adam and Eve eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and they hide from God.
Right.
God shows back up. God hasn't turned his back on them. They've got nothing right with him. Right. They haven't confessed sin. They haven't done anything.
Right.
God seeks them out. They're already his children.
Right. He
seeks them out. He takes care of their problem and then protects them from what they've done without them ever repenting of anything. And this is Old Testament God.
Right.
Before the cross.
Right.
And that's God's attitude toward us now. He will seek us out as his children. He will protect us from ourselves, whether we've repented or not, because we're his children. Now, Adam and Eve was not enjoying their relationship with him because they were hiding from him, but he was still pursuing them and protecting them and making sacrifice. He sacrificed animals to cover their nakedness.
Right. Yeah.
Even when they weren't pursuing him. So.
It's a crazy concept, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy because it takes all the onus off of us, takes the work off of us, takes everything and puts it onto him. Whoa, no, God can't handle all of our junk, can he?
Yeah, that goes completely against what a lot of our churches preach and what society will tell you.
Exactly.
Hey, well,
it's really.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's really not the perseverance of the saints so much as it is the preservation by God of the saints.
Exactly.
Stewart.
Beautiful. Stewart, man.
Well, the perseverance is not working. The perseverance is believing.
Right.
In the face of the junk.
Yeah. John 6:20. Is it John 6:28 and 29 that says that? To believe the work of God.
This is
what
the
is
work
of God.
I believe it is.
To believe. Well, we come up with all kind of good ways to try to expose this stuff. For instance, we can expose how to smoke out pastors. we can come up with ways of how to get rid of pastors who believe in a certain way, and yet just by the Bible that they're using, Isn't that, it's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. It's the things that we do. I mean, you know what that is? That right there is placing a dead body out in front.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, man. Get me fired up.
There's a verse that came to mind when you were kind of talking about all this.
Okay.
It's from 2 Corinthians 3. I don't know if you guys mentioned this last week or not, but, Paul's talking about the difference between the new covenant and the old covenant. And he says in verse 4, such is the confidence that we have through Christ toward God, not that we are sufficient in ourselves to claim anything is coming from us, but our sufficiency is from God. And then he kind of adds on to that and says, who has made us sufficient to be ministers of a new covenant, not of the letter, but of the Spirit. For the letter kills, but the Spirit gives life. And I don't know. I was just thinking, I don't feel sufficient, and in my flesh, I'm definitely not sufficient. But but God says that I'm sufficient.
Right.
It's what He says about me that is what matters. Despite of what I feel or even think. That and we're all sufficient. We're all sufficient to be ministers, of the new covenant, which is life, which is Christ Himself.
Exactly.
Good. Yes. Here's another. Go ahead.
I was going to say, if you go on to 3:7 there, but it's the ministry of death, written and engraved on stones. If keeping the rules, that's a ministry of death.
Mm-hmm.
Looky here. This sort of goes on with what we're saying. In Hebrews 8, he finds he says forth that 8:7. He said forth that first covenant had been faultless. There had been no occasion to look for a second, for he finds fault with them when he says, "Behold, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will establish a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not like the covenant that I made with their fathers on the day when I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, for they did not continue in my covenant. And so I showed no concern for them, declares the Lord. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declares the Lord. I will put my laws into their minds and write them on their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. And they shall not teach each one his neighbor and each one his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least to the greatest. For I will be merciful towards their iniquities, and I will remember their sins no more." And so he comes in there and says, in speaking of a new covenant, he makes the first obsolete, which what is becoming obsolete and growing old is ready to vanish away. And we look at that and we see that he says, I'll put my laws into their minds and I'll write them on their hearts. And it's from the inside, and he puts that stuff to be lived out on the outside. It's like this manifestation of what God has put into us. And he goes on to say, look, I will be their God and they shall be my people. We will know it because it'll be manifested out in their lives.
If it's not Christ manifesting, then it's I don't want to see it.
Yeah,
right.
It's the dead flesh. It's the body out in the yard.
Even though I love Starbucks coffee, I don't know. I may have to step over a dead body to go drink some coffee.
But that's because you already know you love the coffee.
That's it. Gotcha.
Bam.
Because
That's
you've already
nice.
tasted the Starbucks coffee.
You've already
tasted
tasted it, and it'll make you
That
step over the
Starbucks
dead body
is
and
good.
get right on past that dead body into the coffee shop. But if you haven't tasted it, you ain't coming nowhere near it.
That's right. That's right, baby.
Unless
Oh, that's good,
somebody
man.
out there may be telling you, hey, you're going to burn, you don't step over that dead body and get in that coffee shop. But you still ain't going to like the coffee when you get in there because you're still going to be too afraid.
I'm going to be kicking that dead body.
That could get nasty.
Yeah.
But see, for
Oh,
those
Jack
for those who have tasted God and know that God's the one in control, that dead body has no fear for us.
That's good.
There's no fear in that dead body because we carry that thing around all the time.
Right.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, another way to smoke out this death is by focusing on creating the true church. I just read that one.
I love
It says
the
in quotes,
smoking out
true.
concept.
creating too is a whole
Creating.
other. Oh, that's a dangerous word right there.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is so random.
That goes back to what we was talking about last week about we're trying to create that what's already on the inside. We're trying to create that on the outside rather than let it just come out from the inside.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is the exact same thing right there. Church already exists.
Man. Well, any other comments on the subject?
I just think the whole subject, Galatians 2:20. I mean, life verse, theme verse of many lives. I know, especially the gentleman here on this podcast. But we were actually, it's funny, we've been walking through Galatians on Wednesday nights with our students, and we were covering this particular verse this past week. And a funny story for you, we're crucified with Christ, Christ who lives within us. No longer us who lives, of course, we know that. I was sitting there trying to explain this to students, and I made a comment, and I had to go back, because after I said it, I was like, well, that sounds bad. I was like, it is no longer I who live, I was like, it is Christ who lives within me. And I said, I am Jesus. And then I went back, I was like, wait, don't go tell your parents I said I am Jesus. Controversy. I don't mean like I am Jesus. I mean, it's Christ who lives inside of me. I am Andy, but Christ lives inside of and I had to go back and correct myself. I thought,
well,
you're not the head, you're not the head, but you're part of the body
exactly.
of Christ.
There you go. More like it. I don't know why that came out, but the phrase "I am Jesus" did sound correct.
You are Jesus with skin.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
Well, there's nothing.
I didn't want him going home and saying Andy said he was Jesus. all these whack jobs out in the world these days claim to be the second coming of Christ. I want to be that guy.
Kind of throw a little twist on what we've been talking about. There is one dead body that we do carry around, though.
We carry around the dying of Jesus.
That's right.
Yes.
But that's what's putting our flesh. That's what put our flesh to death.
Right. So that the life of Christ would be
exactly
manifested.
Yeah, but that's the part of of them seeing life, though, is through us. Is
That's why this flesh doesn't live anymore.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's why people are drawn to relationships. That's why they're drawn to this ministry of drawing people in through relational type ministry, because what you see through this is that they see life in that.
It's new covenant, baby.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's
good news. Either you can sleep on a couch, or you can wake up.
I'll throw something. Moving on here.
Stu, that was for you, man. You didn't even catch it.
Yeah, you lost me. I'm sorry.
I said you can either sleep on a couch or you can wake up to it.
Oh, I get it. Remember Cordova going into the
reception room
and sleeping while Joe was speaking? It was long. It's going, Cordova.
Well, sometimes you have to paint the picture.
I want to go back and comment on what Andy was saying, what he said to his kids, because what you said is true.
Exactly.
But now how people take that is the problem.
The wording might have been a little off.
No, but the wording was exactly right. But it's how people take that, and because they filter it through their perception of who God is and who He is for us.
It's true.
They do not believe that just like that physical body that was Jesus had the Spirit of God in Him, and that's what made Him Jesus.
Yep.
We carry the exact same Spirit, no difference. We live exactly like Jesus lived.
Right.
Now, I have Johnny's body, and he had the body of Jesus, but it's the same Spirit walking around here.
Right.
It's true. That's a good point.
That'll drive people crazy. They'll get all mad. But
I just wanted it to be understood that I am not claiming to be the second coming of Christ.
No.
That is not me. And with our culture and our world and our society, like you said, they don't understand that concept of Christ in you.
Yeah. I mean,
so
we're
correct myself.
Yeah, if you're a Christian, though, you're part of the first coming.
Yeah.
Right.
I like how you said it, JT, because I thought about 2 Corinthians 5. He says that, where's it at there? Yeah, he says that it was God that was working through Christ that was bringing reconciliation to the world, and Christ was a container of God, just like we are.
Exactly.
And there's no difference in that with us and Him.
The only difference in our body and His body was, in our body we have a veil of flesh, and He didn't.
Right.
He could see.
Good.
But the same Spirit of God, no difference. No difference. Because if it's different, then it's not Jesus living in here.
Right. That's just it's a crazy concept to even try and wrap your mind around. I mean, even for me, I know and I understand it, but it's so hard to go. The same Spirit that was in Jesus is the same Spirit that was in me.
I tell you, when you start,
you need to saran wrap that.
When you start thinking about it, though, that's what'll fire you up, and that's what brings life, because nothing's impossible.
That's it, man.
Nothing isn't. If God's in control, then nothing's impossible.
Right.
That's just like with my mind this week. I know all this junk with my apartment and stuff.
Right.
With my mind, I know, okay, God's doing all this. It's all in control. That hadn't made it to my emotions yet, though. It hasn't become manifested in this flesh yet. So, the stress is there, even though the mind says it's okay.
Right. Excellent. Well, gentlemen, thanks for joining us today.
I want to throw in one more thing.
Yeah, go for it.
Just because we always, I'm wound up right now.
I know you got him fired up.
We're always talking about keeping the rules is death. And we mean that with all our hearts. If you're keeping the rules to be pleasing to God, that's nothing but death. It may look good on the outside, but it's death on the inside. And you're that dead body laying out trying to get people to come taste God, if that's what you're doing.
Right. Wow.
But what I want to say here is if you hear that and that makes you go, oh, I don't have to do all these things, and that excites you. Let me tell you, when I actually heard that I didn't have to keep the rules to get to God, it didn't excite me that I didn't have to keep the rules. I could care less about that.
Right.
What excited me was all of a sudden the relationship I wanted with God was possible because it was not dependent upon me keeping the rules. Freedom. Exactly. But it wasn't freedom. It wasn't freedom from the rules. It was freedom to love God and know that I could have that relationship face to face with Him.
And it's like a whole new thing. I can remember the exact time, date, place, and it was actually John Cordova who shared grace with me when I was in my legalistic state, because I told him, I was like, I can't do this. This Christian thing, I can't do it. And, dude, I just remember the feeling when my mind, when it's like, I guess God just was like, you don't have to, here it is, and I just remember it was almost like a physical burden was lifted from my shoulders, and I felt like a new creature.
Exactly.
I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, because
go ahead. I was just gonna make a stupid joke. Sorry.
I was gonna say. I mean, I remember being to the point in my walk. I was ready to kill myself again, because I had come full circle back to where I was when I became a Christian, because I saw no way of getting to God as a believer.
Man, I was ready to hang it up.
I know. I was like, I can't. I'm never going to have this relationship, and I can't settle for anything less. I was never one of those people that would say, okay, I'll just do what I can, and, God will be at a distance. I couldn't handle that. That was not me. And I remember reading a little book called Practice of the Presence of God. Read it like in an hour there, sitting in my van. I was at a silence retreat at this camp, and I was doing sound. Because there was a speaker every so often, and they wanted to record that, but nobody else could talk. It was crazy. But a friend of mine from my church pointed out a book that was on the book table, and I took it and I sat there and read it. It was after lunch, because you couldn't go talk to anybody.
You got to be quiet to practice the presence of God, JT.
Well, I read that book, and it was Brother Lawrence, and I remember him saying, when I fall, I'm surprised I don't fall more often. I get up and just go on. And I remember God opening my eyes that day and going and sitting on the side of the lake. And I remember telling God, I was like, because all of a sudden my eyes were open that, hey, I can have a face-to-face relationship with God. And I remember telling God, I don't care if I fall 1,000 times a day, if I can look you in the face, I'm going to get up and keep following you.
Right.
And I'd also said, because I was so bent on keeping the rules, unless you give me a heart to do something, I will not do it. If I'm doing it for any reason other than you giving me a heart, then I won't do it. And I quit everything for 3 months. And slowly God started giving me a heart back for the things that he wanted. And following him. And he tastes good.
Right.
Oh, it was good.
Awesome.
Good stuff, JT.
Nice.
I got I got a little closing remarks.
Okay.
Song of Solomon, chapter 5. Eat friends. Listen now. Eat friends, drink, and be drunk with love.
Amen.
That's just good stuff.
Yes.
Because God is intoxicating.
That's right.
That's right, baby.
Yeah.
That's right, baby.
Oh my goodness. Good stuff today, boys.
Yeah, buddy.
Good stuff. And listen, I want to encourage you to do something to the listeners. Go out and check out Andy's website. It's thetreebranches.com. Thanks for joining us today, Andy.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Andy. How old are you, Andy?
23 years old.
23.
Less than half my age.
Young buck.
Well, have a good lunch with your wife, man.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it.
And go check out Andy's page. You'll find his podcast there and his blog, and you'll get to know about Andy a little better there through his stuff. Stu even has a blog, but I'm not sure he writes on it.
I wish he would more. I don't know.
Stu's blog is Stu's blog, STUS blog 220.blogspot.com. So go check that out as well. And go by Little Raw Springs Baptist Church and get you some stew.
That's it, man. That's it.
Also, if you're up for a good laugh, you can check out my YouTube page.
Oh, yes. You got to check out.
Keep that armadillo.
Type in Stu Shoemaker, you'll pull it.
If you want another good laugh, listen to last week's podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And Mr. John Cordova, listen, thanks for joining us today via the 60s Room, and it's not a club. It's in Larry's house, which is a museum. And if you're in Tupelo and you know how to get a hold of John Cordova, get a hold of John Cordova and go by and set a time up to see Larry's place. You will not regret going and checking out the museum up there. And
if you want to see my blog, you can go to my Facebook status.
Well, he has access to our blog, which he's always on. But you guys have always had the access to write on there. So, very cool. Listen, we want to send you off with this. I fight and you may die. Run and you'll live at least a while. And dying in your beds many years from now, you would be willing to trade all these days from this day to that for one chance. Just one chance to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives. But they'll never take what, boys?
Freedom.
That's right.
Free your mind, and the rest will follow.
Yes. You need to stick to dancing, Cordova.
I'm done. I'm muted my microphone right now.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, cool.
Everybody have a good week.